So a fairly understudied plant that I haven't seen before as a 5-meal source is the yopo plant. There's a few reports on it having it in the seeds, but it's mainly buffotian. But there are like minor traces of 5-meo and DMT as well. But rather than using the seeds as the source, what is used is actually the stem bark and the root bark, which I've personally never seen online before, but I came across it on an older paper, and then I went around and started researching Trout's notes again, and it actually is referenced, and the root bark is actually the strongest concentration that's known. I believe it's around 0.6% yield of the root bark, and the stem bark, in one reference that he has, it's around 0.4%, which is fairly high considering the active dose of 5-meo. The leaves, in the paper I have found the reference in, it's around 0.1%, and no, not 0.1, I think it's 0.01, where in 100 grams of leaf material you get 10 milligrams of DMT and 5-meo. It's a 50-50 split in the leaves, and the stem, it's at 0.04%, so 100 grams of stem bark is 40 milligrams of the 5-meo. But in the stem bark, it's almost pure 5-meo. It does have some 5-meo NMT, but it's mainly the pure 5-meo as a source. So I purchased the Angico Branco. It's the yopo plant, but this variation is the colubrina, the second type. There's like the two types, the one with the P, which is the more common one, and the other one, which is stronger for the seeds. So I purchased that, and after doing my first attempt at the extraction, I saw that it's mainly the second variety that's sold as root bark. Here the root bark is used for making a tea, where its properties of helping with respiratory issues like coughing and a few other issues, it's mainly for that. So I shredded the very, very tough stem bark, and I got this material. My first attempt, I used 25 grams, so I was expecting, based on Trout's notes, either 10 milligrams based on the old paper that I found, up to 100 milligrams based on the highest reported yields that's in Keeper's Trout's Simple Tryptamines second edition. In the end, I ended up with maybe 1 milligram, if that, and it could have been an issue with my actual extraction. I had trouble with a DFAT. This plant doesn't seem to have much oils, but there's a massive amount of sapotins, where even shaking the water will cause a lot of foaming. So my second attempt, I'll probably do 100 grams, and I won't attempt the DFAT, and I won't be shaking at all. I also lost maybe 10 or 20% of my heptane in my final pull. there was a large emulsion, I had to filter it to break the emulsion. It wasn't too bad, but maybe I could get a better yield. So while on the topic of stem barks, in literature usually you mainly see root bark being the main plant material used, and the stem bark is considered weak or nearly inactive. However, recently I've come across a paper from a user in Reddit. He shared a link where researchers actually obtained more of the alkaloid using the stem bark over the root bark. And as far as pricing and sustainability and harvesting ease, the stem bark would be very superior to the root bark. And I decided to attempt this myself. I got myself some stem bark. Let me get the piece so you can see it's the actual stem. Here you can see the bark, the outer bark, and some of the inner stem bark. And I shredded it myself as well. And in the paper I'll link, they used quite a bit of ultrasound bath to defat and to make the pulls. And I think the main difference that I did with mine is I didn't shred as finely as they did. They have a knife mill, so their powder was extremely fine compared to mine, where it's just shredded. So in the past I've purchased bark, outer root bark, which is a very low yield. I only got around 0.3%. I purchased more expensive inner root bark, and I only got around 0.5%. And both of those were a bit more expensive, especially the inner root bark, where in the local currency it's around 200. And this stem bark from the trunk, it's specifically trunk bark, I got for around 40 in the local currency, so 5 times cheaper. And the yield is around 0.9%, which is the highest I've had so far. And it's a much more accessible, cheaper material for religious use, rather than trying to get more expensive and oftentimes much weaker root bark here in Brazil. So this is a much more sustainable source. I can personally confirm that it is a viable option. With I did a straight to base, leaving it a week in lye solution, and I got a 0.9 yield. I could have easily gotten close to 1% with multiple pulls, and I'm waiting on my second attempt, where I used the ultrasound for the extractions to see if I get a higher yield or not. And here's my ultrasound bath that I got from the most recent donations that I received from subscribers, as well as a purchase I've made, a sale I've made. I used the funds to purchase this. This is the smallest unit. It's at 2 liters. If I were to redo this, I would get a 3 liter, since the power would be stronger, and there's 2 transductors for the actual ultrasound. This is at 70 watts, the other would be at 100 watts. The size is perfect for me, since everything mine is small scale and for personal use. And I personally have used it quite a lot. I do enjoy it, and we'll see if there's any actual gain in the yield. For my research, people say that it's not worth it, and for the ultrasound to actually do something, you would need a ultrasound probe they're easily 10 times more expensive. But from what I've actually researched, the ultrasound isn't so much to extract from the plant material, but to actually increase the surface transfer between the nonpolar and the water layer. When you turn on the ultrasound effect, where they make the micro bubbles and they expand and explode, it would increase the surface connection, I guess, or surface contact magnitudes much than just shaking it or stirring it. There's also a smaller risk of emulsions due to the properties of, again, the bubbles expanding and breaking apart. I still haven't verified this myself, but I do think it does help a lot with the transferring from the aqueous layer to the nonpolar layer. It also does a good job at helping acidify or alkalinizing the plant material or the solution itself. So that's something I'm working on. And like I mentioned, with my first attempt with the yopo stem bark, it'll be a while before I reattempt that, since I have other projects going on. But I'll also try to use the ultrasound to see if it helps with the yields. And it's pretty much devoid of any undissolved acid I added. Again, the slight cloudiness does indicate there is an alkaloid that is soluble in heptane and insoluble as a salt. So that's a good sign. Considering the older publications with this amount of starting material, from 100 grams, I could expect 400 milligrams to around 40 milligrams, even lower, obviously. So for this first attempt, anywhere between 100 milligrams, which would be amazing, and even 10 milligrams would be promising, since I did lose quite a bit of the nonpolar due to, again, the sabatins. The next attempt, I won't shake as much, so it should prevent emulsions. And I'll try to defat before doing my acid pulls. I did it afterwards and it was just a headache. But actually, I'm not even going to do an defat, since the hexane didn't have any discoloration or any visible or noticeable oils. So I'll skip the defat, and I won't shake the nonpolar after adding the lye. I also added excess lye. It was not on purpose. I wanted to only reach around 11 or 12 pH, but I overshot it. Next time I'll also be more careful with the addition of the lye solution. So with my first attempt at extracting 5-meo from the yopo stem bark, I did get a film of a precipitate on the bottom of the beaker, and like I mentioned, there was some clouding when I added the acid to the heptane, so there was something that was pulled and salted. This is probably around 1 milligram, if that. So I'll be reattempting this in the future with a larger starting material.